I'm sorry about that. If we could, if you're able to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You remain standing for a moment of silent prayer. Thank you. At this time, we can have public comment. And there's 3 minutes per person. If you would give your name and if you're a township resident or not, that'd be greatly appreciated. Also remember that each agenda item, you can also speak on that. Public comments?
My name is Joanne McCullum. I live in Ypsilanti Township. I'm here to talk about the crime in my neighborhood and how unsafe it is, and how I have lived there 28 years, and I have been trying to work with the township, with all people involved, to help my neighborhood be safe. Unfortunately, it's a very frustrating situation because I keep getting told there is nothing that can be done about it. And I'm not going to stop trying to find something to do about it. One of the things that we have noticed in my neighborhood is that the majority of the incidents of criminal activity is from rental homes. Landlords have the duty to protect their tenants and the rental properties surrounding the neighborhood. Ypsilanti Township is not keeping its residents safe. They allow landlords to rent out to persons who commit physical, violent crime. The Washtenaw County Sheriff is helpful in capturing these criminals, but why can't we be proactive and keep residents safe? Most crimes happen at or around rented homes, and usually there is criminal behavior established at rental homes before a traumatic situation happens. Many calls and emails are made to the township only to be told there's nothing that can be done. The license plate reader is to catch a criminal after the deed is done. Why not be proactive and prevent the situation by creating more suitable ordinances for landlords? Landlords are different. They do not live in the neighborhood. They don't live in my neighborhood. The crimes are being committed. They're only collecting money. They're unconcerned about the welfare of the neighborhood. The township should create ordinances that reflect the concern and safety of its residents. Landlords are not going to care if the township doesn't take action. And if landlords don't care who they rent to, they probably don't care about their property or tenants. Maybe the tenants are too afraid to speak if anything is going on in the home that they're living and paying rent for, because they're afraid of eviction. So creating strong ordinances for landlords helps the neighborhood and the tenants. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kaiser?
My name is Arloa Kaiser. I'm a Ypsilanti Township resident, and what I'm here for to talk about Auntie Yvonne's free store that's in St. Mark's Lutheran Church. My understanding there's a group called Peace Something from Ann Arbor that's taking over the group. And Auntie Yvonne's is mostly clothes, but they do have dishes and shoes and all that kind of stuff, and it's absolutely free. The nicest place you have been. They keep it very clean, but my understanding is now this peace group, Ann Arborites, are coming to Ypsilanti Township to do us favors, and I think that I know because I talked to them, that they want to downsize her clothing store. These are good things, and people need clothing. They need shoes, coats, and it's all good stuff. And actually, one of the churches in the neighborhood had a garage sale, and they wanted to donate the stuff left over from their garage sale to Auntie Yvonne's, and they didn't have any room. They have so much clothing, but yet the Ann Arborite group wants to downsize them. So are they going to take over and get rid of her initiative? And she does this for free, and she keeps the church clean. She has a prayer group there. I believe it's 2 days a week. I think that is just throwing water on something that somebody has done so much work to promote. And I don't know that Ann Arborites are going to do us that much good. I think and Ypsilanti, we need our own people to help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser.
Hi, I have a handout for you guys. Would you like me to come hand it out to you real quick? Hello, I'm Joshua Cowan. I'm an Ypsilanti Township resident. I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, Lori Thomas, who requested a variance that was scheduled for a hearing this evening. My mother is out of the state for the FEMA recovery for Hurricane Ian, and she asked me to speak on her behalf tonight. On Friday, my mother was informed that her variance request would not be heard today. She asked me to still appear, that the board would be aware of her variance request, and asked that the variance request be heard as soon as possible, as time is of the essence. That is a letter from my mother with all the particulars of the variance. I would also like to state that I am a parcel owner of 5505 Bonatera, and I am in support of the variance. That's all I have. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, I was just wondering if you would mind providing Deputy Stanfield with your email address, if you
Of
wouldn't
course.
mind emailing this as well to us, just for,
No
thank
problem.
you.
Other public comment?
My name is Ray Smith. I live in Wingate. I also own a real estate business here. I do property management here as well. I'm coming in because I've had an issue with the building department. My home address and my work address are the exact same. You guys send letters and mailings to my home, and I respond to them. As of recently, the building department sent me a letter saying that they have evidence that the home that I reside in, that I paid off, is a rental. I called them, I discussed it with them that it's not. I showed them how all my mail's getting here and so on and so forth. I thought that should be the end of the discussion. It wasn't. And they sent a person to come to my door while I was not there, and it seemed like they were trying to barge in. And I don't know if people know this, but illegal search and seizures are illegal. And if you have no reason to do so, there's no reason for you to be entering my home. I'll tell you right now, as a property manager, I'm trying to get the best tenants in possible because honestly, I don't want to deal with any problems. And in this area, I've told clients, like, this is not the area to buy in. This is not the area to live in. This isn't the area to send your kids to school in. It just isn't. Because we have so many problems here. You guys have problems filling holes in the road. And then when you do construction projects, you don't actually map them out properly. So now we have businesses like the Powerhouse Gym and all those areas right there that are having people who can't get in because both sides of the road are being done and the sidewalk's being done at the same time. I mean, it seems like people here don't understand how to handle projects properly or how to understand how to handle paperwork properly. Like, again, I've been sent over 25 notices from the building department because of my business from here, and I've responded to all of them. And yet you're saying that I don't live in my home, and then you want access to my home? I'll tell you right now, if that activity continues, there's going to be a lawsuit. And I don't know, maybe you guys should read the first 10 amendments. May help you out. I have noticed that a lot of people here treat us like we are subjects and not citizens and like you're royalty. And I think it's nonsense. I think it's absolute nonsense. I think the type of, and I've seen other owners and other landlords and even just people living in the community get throttled by you guys. And it's pathetic. If you want to be an open community and have people actually participate, you should be a lot less aggressive to the people that live here.
Sir, can I get did you give your address so I can follow up on that?
Oh, I'll give it to you right now. 1614 Wingate.
And I want to make sure, and I'm sorry that occurred. No, I don't. Yeah, no, I'm sorry that, I'll find out.
The fact that everything of my business has my address on it, and the fact I responded, and you've done this, pathetic. I'm done with my conversation.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good evening. My name is Doug Stout. I am the current president of the Mill Point Homeowners Association and just came to comment on a couple of things. I know that you folks are extraordinarily interested in safety. We're going to pursue that in a particular way in our neighborhood with a little bit more revitalization of neighborhood watch, as well as encouraging folks to have cameras at their doors. I'm also here to bring up the topic of the cameras that we've talked about around the perimeter of the township, and to say that I am strongly in favor of that and would love to see you proceed without delay if you can. I feel that you've done due diligence in all the efforts to look at them over, and whatever obstacles that you find at this point, I'm hope that you're able to resolve quickly. But I urge you to keep moving it ahead, because I believe that it will be a substantial improvement to law enforcement in our township.
Thank you.
Hi, Monica Ross Williams, 2150 Chevrolet Street. I wanted to comment on a situation that, basically, speaking of crime or possible crime, that I happened to hear about, actually wrote something about it. I'm very concerned. I'm hearing that there is a homeless encampment across the street from Rosenville Elementary School, where pre-K 5 kids go to school. I'm also hearing that the county is supplying supplies to these individuals over basically trying to supply them shelter. I'm not aware, I don't know if people are aware, but in the Ann Arbor Independent tonight, there was a story that came out in regards to about $1.2 million that was given to a group named Supreme Felons. If you take $1.2 million, you can actually probably house all the people in the homeless encampment, probably in a hotel, until you can find them permanent housing. But we're just going to go back on the fact of the school. Again, we don't know who is there. We don't know their history. We don't know basically who really they are. And so when I look at the fact that there is an elementary school across the street where kids are walking to school, trying to get to school, and this homeless encampment is there, it is a problem. Now, meanwhile, between time, I just want to make it known, I'm also a resident inside of Van Buren Public School District. Because of that, I have informed the superintendent of this situation, because I'm a taxpayer as well. For the county basically to hand over items over really trying to solve the problem, considering that, according to that story tonight, they have problems of their own as a county, is an issue. And so I wanted to make it known that it is imperative that that situation gets removed from across the street from elementary school. In about 2 years, my grandson will be at that elementary school. It is ridiculous. And the county, in my strong opinion, needs to get their act together, because this is a problem. It is an issue. And it's not about people being homeless. It's about basically, if you know a situation exists, your job as a county is to provide social services Or better yet, maybe have your community action board work on it. But either way, solve the problem. Don't have it across the street from elementary school. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll go on to the agenda. First item is the consent agenda for the minutes of the October 4th work session and regular meeting, and statements and checks and the treasurer's report.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to add the thing under new business. I don't know if you want to do that under the consent
other
agenda.
business?
Do we need to say it at the consent agenda? Or no? I don't know.
Yes.
Yes. Just, you guys, I passed this document out for you before. We just received this. I think Treasurer Eldridge received it first today at like 4 p.m. It was rather late, but it's to conclude and complete the lighting project at the historic Willow Run section at Wired Road. And so that work won't be completed until we provide the funds to DTE. Attorney Winters was given a copy earlier as well to review. So if everyone's okay with that, I would like to add that under other business.
It's $980. It's a small amount to pay, but if we wait, then they won't light up. Everyone's been waiting for that sign to be lit up. We have agreements for the service drive, and the lights are going to be installed, but we have been waiting for this street sign or the entrance sign that say Historic Willow Run to be lit up, and this would allow that to happen. So we have to ask, is it all right to add it to the agenda? Does anyone object? So then we'll put it under other business. Thank you, Clerk Rowe.
I would so move the consent agenda.
We have a motion and support. Comments? I had a few changes that I submitted for the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. General legal update, Attorney Winters.
Madam Chair, just very briefly, I think probably now for so many years we continue to try and deal with what many of us refer to as quality of life issues, and that's a very, very broad swath sometimes to cut across this township. The one quality of life issue that I probably will continue to talk about for a number of meetings ahead will be the ongoing status of the Galt Village, abandoned, dilapidated, falling down commercial structure that is not only having an impact upon the Galt Village neighborhood, Sugarbrook, all the other homes in that area, but also has become at times almost a very poor representation of the township for those who travel up and down I-94, who have occasion to go down the service drive. During the work session, we briefly discussed this issue going forward. And again, just so everybody's on the same wavelength, this shopping mall, it has been and currently is under a demolition order. In other words, the time has now passed for the property owner to discuss any type of rehabilitation. That ship has sailed, and there's no turning back in regards to the fact that this shopping mall has to be demolished. The impact it's having is just financial, as well as just psychological, as well as image, everything you can think of, and safety. There's still cars that are accessing that property throughout the day. I've continued to witness myself vehicles that come and go inside there, and et cetera, et cetera. Where we stand right now is that the court, Judge Kunke has requested of the township and of the owner, GV LLC, to submit cost estimates for the demolition. Back earlier this month, we had a hearing, and the township did obtain one estimate during the time period that we were given the short time period that we had in between the hearings. And the court did adjourn until November the 4th to allow additional contractors to submit bids for this demolition. And so on November the 4th, we are scheduled to return to court. And this coming Friday, we have arranged for 6 demolition contractors to appear on site. The township has a consultant, SME, that's actually the one that's going to be in charge of this so-called tour. And we're hoping that after the 21st, we'll have in hand at least 7 bids that we can take back to the 7 cost estimates to go back to Judge Conkey on the 4th of November. And it is a priority that for this coming year, 2023, that has to be demolished. We know that it's a health, safety, welfare issue. We know that there's people continuing to access that property illegally. We know there's prostitution that's occurred there. We know there's blight. We know there's drug dealing. And it's a safety hazard. It's a public nuisance. And it's going to continue to be part of our regular update until we actually come back to the board with a recommendation for a contractor to proceed with the demolition. Under the court order, if the township is the one responsible to incur those costs, the township will have the right to have that cost reimbursed by attaching a money judgment against that property. We'll see how it plays out in the days ahead, but that is a very, very high priority. In regards to other quality of life issues, the township always, I think through our neighborhood watch and through the eyes and ears of just people who call in, that is really how we sometimes respond to properties that become on our radar. This past 2 weeks, Supervisor Stumbo received some very disturbing information that one of our office buildings on Packard had opened up a massage parlor, and from the advertisements that were being shown on the internet, it appeared to be also one that was advertising for consensual sexual encounters. I did provide the board with that information, as well as the action that was taken by the building, zoning, and the community compliance department. And I also attached some articles that were published last year when the new county prosecuting attorney had mentioned that he was no longer going to prosecute any kind of activity that he deemed to be consensual sex, and massage parlors became a topic at that time. The board may recall that after that article came out in the Free Press, as well as the MLive, that I had received several phone calls from realtors wanting to know where they could locate a massage parlor in the township. Well, you can't just open up a massage parlor open up a massage parlor and advertise what we saw coming to us, right down from a high school and et cetera, neighborhood. And so the point I'm making is that there are consequences when you adopt new policies, and I don't think that this one is going to stay in its location, because we've already notified the property owner that that is an illegal business in terms of the zoning. And we've also notified the financial institution that loaned the money, that has a mortgage on the property, that the mortgagor is in violation of township zoning laws. And the point I'm making right now is that there are a number of policies that do come out from other offices that have direct bearing on what we deal with in the township. In regards to the Green Oaks Golf Course, you may have seen that we did submit to the insurance carrier request for partial reimbursement of some of the costs that we have incurred as a result of deliberate acts of vandalism and sabotage that took place at the Green Oaks Golf Course back in the spring of this year. As of today's date, there has been 416 golf balls retrieved from the irrigation system. Nobody in the golf community, because I am not a golfer, I know Stan is, and other people, and Jimmy, and other people that play golf, but nobody in the golf community that I've talked to has ever heard or even imagined happening what has happened at the Green Oaks Golf Course. And I'm just very, very grateful to Director Hoffmeister and the new golf superintendent, Will Turner, and Kirk Sherwood for all their efforts this year to keep that golf course in full operation in spite of the fact that there was overt acts of sabotage at a level that we've never seen, or nobody's ever seen, where you dump 416 golf balls into some kind of a well system that has then it shoots out the golf balls in a way to keep the irrigation system from working. It's very, very difficult. But the number's 416. I don't know how many more are out there. But we're trying to, I know they're trying to get all that they can, given that the winterization of the irrigation system is scheduled the third week of November. In addition, we actually have two contracts that have been tentatively approved by the TPOAM and the 14B District Court. Those new contracts are currently being reviewed and I think vetted by their membership. And once those contracts have been voted upon, if they are approved, based upon the bargaining and grievance, the bargaining committee's recommendations, then we will bring those back to the board and ask for those to be approved. Given the timing of our board meetings, it might not happen until that second meeting in November, discussing with Karen Wallen. But just to give everybody an update, those contracts have been tentatively approved. It's been a long process because we had the Teamsters last year, and you had TPOAM formally asked me, then you have asked me for the 14B court. All those contracts came due at the same time because the COVID had extended some of those contracts that normally are staggered. So we did have back-to-back-to-back negotiations going on with three different unions. And as someone mentioned tonight, we'll get done just in time to start with the fire. So, fire department. So anyways, that's kind of just a brief thumbnail sketch of some of the things that are going on. And there are some very, very positive developments that are happening that in the days ahead we'll be able to discuss in regards to potential economic development and property development in the days ahead. So we'll have, I think we're going to have a good end of the year in terms of the next 2 months.
Questions or comments? Doug, I was wondering if you could talk about how we use the padlock ordinances, and there was 3 reasons, and based on the police reports, and we've actually shut them down before.
Back, I think it's probably been about 5, maybe 6 years ago, there had been a padlock ordinance, a padlock statute that would allow municipalities to padlock residential properties or seek a padlock order if there was evidence of drug dealing, guns, prostitution, etc. But at that time, the law only gave the legal standing to pursue a padlock action by the prosecuting attorney or the attorney general. So at that time, Mike Radzik and myself and the board, we talked with Sheriff Clayton, at the time Washtenaw County Prosecutor Brian Mackey, and we went to Lansing in an effort to get that statute changed so as to allow townships themselves to be the one to initiate these type of civil proceedings, because Brian Mackey's office point blank said they just were overwhelmed trying to keep up with their normal prosecution, and they wanted to be able to support the township, but if the township would initiate that, if the law was changed, then the township could initiate and have standing in their own right to initiate those cases. And it was also expanded to 90 days to allow us to file those padlock actions, because before they were limited to 30 days, which is a very, very short time period to file an action. Since that law was changed to give the townships legal standing to padlock a house based upon whether or not there was drug dealings, prostitution, guns, etc., we have probably come to the board, I would imagine, close to probably 3 to 4 dozen times at least, maybe more, in which we have, through the CAT team, through other Michigan State Police, through LawNet, have been able to identify properties in which we have actually identified houses throughout this entire township that has been utilized for selling drugs. In fact, I think there was one house that stands out in my mind not too long ago, and I know Shane's here this evening, but we had a house in the neighborhood where there was a large amounts of fentanyl and cocaine that was seized, and the Child Protective Services were called in because at the drug house there were 2 very, very small babies within a very, very, maybe 6 or 10 feet from where the drugs were being stashed that required the Protective Services to get involved. So we have been very aggressive. The CAT team, LawNet, all the different law agencies have worked together. We've had properties that, as a result of this, have been the ones that many of them, which were rental, many of them have either sold the houses themselves. We had one on Parkwood just recently, you may recall, where there was a padlock case, and that resulted in that property owner just selling the property outright, because a lot of these people, many of them are absentee landlords, and they may not know what's going on, even though they have responsibility to know what's going on. And so we don't hesitate at all to go forward when the Sheriff's Department and law enforcement brings these to the attention of the township officials. So I might be underestimating it. We may have actually had more like 50 cases. There's been quite a few. And the word has actually got out quite readily around, because anymore when we have a case that could be a padlock case, we'll get phone calls from attorneys to just say, you know, we'll do whatever you want us to do to bring this house into compliance. It's not up to us to try and we can't chase everybody down to bring these properties into compliance. There's a responsibility both socially, legally, and morally to maintain your properties in accordance with the township and state laws. But during this time period, I think Supervisor Stumble and the board has stated many, many times that your home is your single biggest investment, and that's been the premise that we've always worked upon, that truly is your largest economic investment. And we've done everything we possibly can to bring this to the attention of the landlords, and that when they have properties that come to our attention, they're involved in drug dealing or other possible public nuisance, we will move swiftly, and we have. Not just padlock, but there's been other cases too. But specifically, I think to this day, Ypsilanti Township may be the only community that I'm aware of that's actively using the padlock ordinance, because you have to have the resources and you have to have the teamwork. And I know between the CAT team that Shane helps to oversee, Lieutenant Pelletier oversees, as well as Township Attorney Dennis McLean and working with the courts, working with the crime labs. I think we have a tremendous track record of success that could not be possible, though, without the Township Board being the one to really put its marker down and authorize us to proceed this way, because that success is not because of any one person, any one law firm, any one department. It really starts at the Township Board level, which says right now we want the quality of life issues to matter. There's nothing worse than having 50, 60, 70 cars stop at a house every 5 and 10 minutes throughout the course of an evening to run in, run back out, run in, run back out, doing a drug transaction. And that's happened many, many times. And when it does, it comes to our attention and they gather evidence to establish that. The courts have been more than willing to padlock that house and to correct that behavior.
And where do you get the evidence? From the Sheriff's Department?
Sheriff's Department usually is the one that's going to have the confirmation of the drug dealing and sees the evidence through a search warrant that's been approved by the court, and then have it analyzed by the Michigan State Police Lab. I will say right now, I've talked with Lieutenant Peltier before, I mentioned this to all of you. I've read those reports, and some of these reports, and I know Shane's seen many of those in his career, so has Stan. You're talking about some of these reports, it might be 60, 70 pages, it might involve 6, 7, 8 different officers, and the amount of time that is expended in just doing this surveillance and just watching and gathering evidence, it's not always as glamorous as it is on the TV shows, but they put on they expend a tremendous amount of time in trying to build a case. And it's not one that just, many of these cases end up in the criminal system as well. So it's not just, the civil padlock, but the message that's been sent out to the property owner is that if you're going to be a landlord, you're going to be a responsible landlord. And I can't think of any time where we've had a padlock case where we've had a repeat offender after the padlock order has been fulfilled. In other words, if a house is padlocked for 6 months, 9 months, I can't recall any time when somebody has reverted right back to doing it again. So I do think there is some deterrent effect on those that we have. Are there other ones out there that we don't know about? Absolutely. But I do know that the amount of time that goes into these cases from the police department standpoint, and I have read these enough to know just the amount of hours that go into these. There's a lot of unsung heroes that we don't know about that spend an awful lot of time trying to rid the community of dangerous drugs. And I think right now, I know there's been a lot of people whose lives, even within our office, relatives we know about that have been overdosed on fentanyl. There's no question right now the dangers that are exposed every day with that drug. And it's a scourge in the community to have those drug houses that are selling drugs that are deadly and poisonous. And again, didn't mean to go off on a tangent here, but I'm just saying, but there's a lot of hard work that, again, goes into these cases, and I just want to maybe give a little bit of a expanded version of what is involved in those cases, especially to the Shane's here tonight, as well as Township Attorney Dennis McLean and the court system and everybody that touches these cases. Everybody, it takes a team effort to do what we're doing. And it starts, again, everything starts with the Township Board. That law being changed the way it was just shows how you can be effective at the state level when you have your county prosecuting attorney, your county sheriff, the Township Board, everybody kind of walking hand in glove towards a common goal. And hopefully we can continue to see that kind of teamwork, because we're faced with a lot of challenges here, and a lot of this comes back to just, again, I don't have all the solutions, maybe any solution beyond the fact that we just have to do better to try and improve the quality of life in all of our neighborhoods.
One of the new situations that we have, and I don't know if it's because of COVID or there's a lot of dialed back enforcement and dialed back responses in the courts. And there are people who wanted to evict people because of bad behavior, and the courts were saying, let's not do that now. And I think, 2 or 3 years of going through that, it's kind of peaking. And a lot of there's two concerns with shooting back and forth of youth that's going on. And it starts out with the residents telling us that this house is a problem. And then what we do is that we let the sheriff's department know, and they'll do, it's not secret squirrel, but they do stuff that they don't tell us. We don't have access to that information. We don't have knowledge of it. We don't, when a warrant is executed, we don't know until after it's been done. But 9 out of 10 times, it starts because residents tell us. So once they tell us, we then inform the sheriff's department. There's 2, one off of Ecorse Road and one in West Willow, where there's 2 youths that have beefs against each other, and they solve it by shooting, and it's not safe. And we're trying to get a handle on it. But we as a township can't go and, say you need to do this, because we don't have the authority to do that. But I do want people not to be discouraged, to keep calling and we can get the calls for services. Now, once we've identified a house, we can ask for a specific address and get calls for services for that house to see if indeed it meets the criteria for meeting with the landlord, meeting with, or a padlock, which we've done only with the sheriff's department, though. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating for elected officials to know this information, pass on the information, and then not have any resolution. But we're gonna keep bringing it up every time someone brings it up. The homeless camp is an issue. That's an issue. It's a serious issue, and we've been trying to deal with it with the county, Stan, for 6 to 8 weeks. 6 weeks, I think.
8 weeks and still no response.
So it's frustrating for us too. I just want you to know that it is, and we will continue to keep trying to get the information it takes to hold people accountable, because people need to be held accountable. I agree 100%. And once we get that information from the 911 calls, then we will address it. The ordinance is another thing that we can use when they come up to renew their, to be a landlord. That's in our ordinance, that if they have a lot of calls, from an ordinance standpoint, we can address it from that as well. And we were not doing inspections for 2 years either. So there's been a lot of, I think, disconnect between people due to COVID, but it's not anymore. And I assure you that we're going to do whatever we can to try to hold landlords accountable, residents accountable. Everyone needs to be held accountable. Do they get second chances? And we don't control all of that. And we believe in lifting people up and helping people get through crises and stuff. But we're at a point, not only here, that people need to be held accountable. I agree 100% with what Joanne said. People need to be held accountable. So we're going to keep marching towards that. But we have to do it together. So as discouraging as it seems, please keep calling, please.
Just wanted to have a comment. Monica Cross Williams, 2150 Chevrolet. We are also seeing the results of our decisions. and it wasn't my decision, but either way, there's lots of decisions in order to allow, as you can say, more lenient hands in regards to our county as it relates to law enforcement and the handling thereof. I know Doug spoke briefly about that too. There's always cause and effects for things, and so this is a effect of basically decisions that have been made in order to make things more lenient, to be less enforcing of certain things. And also that leads to an increase of crime. And then now, 2 years later, folks are saying, oh, we're having more crime. Well, that was almost a cause seer that anyone could have foreseen when decisions are made in order to just have things be more lenient. I personally just believe that in the end, this responsibility, yes, it is Ypsilanti Township's also responsibility, but it's also the responsibility of our county, and particularly our sheriff's department. No offense taken, I'm sure you do a great job, in order to enforce the laws that are on our books as it relates to crime. There is a fentanyl crisis inside of just America and also in the state of Michigan. There was, I don't know how many color peels coming across the Canadian border just 3 weeks ago. On top of that, we're dealing with the fact that we in this township and probably on the eastern half of Washtenaw County continue to have from the western parts of Washtenaw County, and particularly Ann Arbor, people that are literally sent over to eastern Washtenaw County, and they have some criminal records. I mean, as long as we are not addressing and calling these things out for what they are, they're going to continue to exist. And so one comment that I would like to make is that it's about time that folks basically, take some homage on some of the decisions that they made for, 2 years ago when voting, and then also basically try and work with the situations that we have at hand, especially as it relates to our county, to call them out to try and solve these problems with municipalities. The municipalities cannot do this on their own. It takes county resources to help solve these problems. And at this point in time, honestly, I don't see the county trying to do too much of anything besides talk a lot of, excuse my French, smack, but then don't solve too many problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes. Sure, Gail.
Okay, I'm totally confused because if you guys aren't finding out the information, me as a resident, I call Washtenaw County when there's gun shooting. Am I supposed to call you the next day? My neighborhood watch lady the next day, or when are we going to start working together? I was here, a couple weeks ago, and I told you how bad Wood Glen is. And now we've had a shooting. Again, what more's got to keep stacking? Tell me, do I call Nitwit Whitmer? Who do we call to get the help we need for Ypsilanti? Period. Parents need to be parents. If you do the crime, the kids need to pay the time. No pussyfooting around. It's like, we all matter. And it's getting ridiculous out there, and I told you that a couple weeks ago. And so I'd like to know if you can tell me now, do I call Doug? Do I call Mr. Peterson? Do I call Stan? Do I call you? Do I go down the line and call everybody the next day?
You call the sheriff's department.
I do.
Right.
And then during one of the phone calls, they claimed they got no calls. I called. Do I
believe
call
you.
the news stations? Do I call all the newspapers? Who do I call to get the right help out there? I don't want to call
you
the
keep
blame
calling the
game.
sheriff's
I want
department.
help.
We need the sheriff's department. That's who you need to call. Shane, can you give her your card and maybe you can,
I got it.
okay, good. Good.
But still, if you guys aren't getting the information, why aren't you getting it faster?
We meet once a week on Mondays.
Once a week isn't good enough.
Right. Well, that's when we meet and
Because
get
number
updated.
one, I told you about the exchange of guns and that problem house, and you still have kids jumping that fence. And that was one of the kids that got shot at on Nash on Sunday night. It's like, you guys got to be working stronger to help me know who I call besides the Army. Thank you.
Madam Chair, maybe I can help a little bit here, Gail. I think what everybody is saying and what they're trying to articulate, obviously, if you hear gunshots, obviously, if there's things that are happening that obviously involve the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department, you're going to call 911. I think what we were also saying is that there are other situations that occur where we get phone calls that the ordinance department does anyways, that says there's things here that don't appear to be they don't appear to be right. There's cars coming and going all hours of the day and night. They stay for maybe 5 minutes or less. There's things that just don't look right. We get that information, we pass it on to the sheriff's department, and then they have to go about doing things in accordance with their procedure. It could be investigation, could be surveillance. We don't always know. Many times it does end up in having search warrants executed, guns seized, drugs seized, and then it could be a criminal case as well as a civil case for a padlock case. I think everybody is working together. I think what the supervisor is saying right now, there was a moratorium there for a long time on any kind of rent evictions for a long time. There was also other kinds of moratoriums as well because of the fact that people were having issues in finding housing, et cetera. And as that goes through the pipeline and things get back to somewhat normal, courts were closed for a long time as well. And but as we continue to go through the process, these issues and complaints, I think that we are getting the complaints. And the ones that we can handle, we handle those as fast as possible. The ones that are going to have a criminal component to it or one that's going to actually require investigation, those calls, you should continue to call 911 because they will track those phone calls. I don't know what happened. I know you said there were some phone calls that were made that they have no record of, but I know more. Over the years, we've been able to at least get the calls for service and even get the 911 phone calls, and sometimes they'll be surprised at how many people will call at the same time. But it's not a perfect system, perhaps in regards to how everything gets collated, but I do know that the sheriff keeps us informed on a daily basis what's going on. The board keeps, the ordinance department informs the township board. I get informed as to what is going on when there should be legal action taken. So out of a township of 55,000 people, 15,000 single-family homes, neighborhoods that are separated by expressways, natural barriers like Fort Lake, there's a lot of territory to cover. And I know we can't always probably, the police are kind of frustrated by, you can't always be there when something happens. But as long as they know it's getting reported, we can build a case with that information many times, and we're going to continue to try and do all that, working hand in glove with all the partnering agencies around Ypsilanti Township. So keep on calling the police on criminal matters, things that might be not, suspicious. You need to call the township or the ordinance department.
Joanne McCollum. I live in Ypsilanti Township. I've been having this conversation for many years. It's sad. Maybe even people should say, well, Joanne, why don't you just move? You know, I do have some wonderful neighbors where I live. I do like where I live. But this conversation's been going on for years. Forget who's in office now, whoever, prosecutor, whoever, it was going on before then, and you all know that. And what I'm saying is we need to do something different. We make the phone calls to the police. We talk to the township. We talk to other organizations. We try to do things in our neighborhood to help our youth to circumvent things that would happen, you know, so they don't go down the wrong path. We do so much. So basically what I'm saying is presently, it doesn't work. What we're doing is not working, and we need to change it. We need to get together and think about changing it so we can stop all these youth from dying and so that we can live in our neighborhood safely. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did talk to Derek Jackson today about having a community meeting, which we've done before prior to you. Miss Linda might remember, but we would have community meetings hosted by the Sheriff's Department when we were all there. And I did ask for that to have it. And he said he thought it was a great idea, and he was going to talk to, but just like you said, have a meeting, get together, and discuss the concerns. I know what they are, but how do you make that change, right? That's what we need to do. And I think holding people accountable is the best way to do that. And you've said to us, zero tolerance. You've said to us, you want speeding enforcement. The ordinance, zero tolerance, we can do. Speeding, we can. We used to get addresses and would know exactly what addresses, and we could run, you know, and find out how many calls for services to a certain address. We don't get that anymore. They changed the policy on that. And so until I hear a specific address, you know, then I can say to the Sheriff's Department, can you please run the number of calls to this resident, this address? And then we call in it's very slow moving, I agree. And the number of renters in West Willow is just not fair. It's not fair so Habitat's now in there buying up homes and trying to expand the ownerships. And the work that you guys are doing is great. And we try to be right there with you when you're doing, you know, programs and support you in every way we can, but people need to be held accountable, and they haven't been. And that's the conversation that we need to have. We tell them what you say, but when you tell the Sheriff's Department that, I think it's real effective. And if we're all in the same room, then we can come up with a better plan, because I agree with this plan's not working. So I hear you, agree with you. Since last night's meeting, asked to set up a meeting with Derek Jackson for some community engagement. So we're going to keep going and try to do the best we can together. Thank you. Under new business? Oh, I'm sorry.
Hello, Robin McCoy, Ypsilanti Township. Yes, I'm seeing in the system a crisis with mental health, where there are people that are in the jails that they're lingering there. And so I just definitely think that there needs to be more resources poured into people placement, like in long-term mental health facilities or short-term mental health facilities. The same with substance abuse. I'm just seeing people in crisis, and I'm hearing what folks are saying. It's like we want to have a balancing act in terms of the moratorium on rent, But like, we have a client that is a landlord that has the tenant from, we keep going to court, and the tenant is just doing all kinds of egregious things, and it's just taken forever to try to get that tenant out. And so I understand, you want to be compassionate to people, especially during the pandemic and things of that nature. But I agree that there do have to be boundaries, because you just can't let folks do whatever they want to do. That's why I do programs. I go in the schools and I talk to kids about what to do when stopped by the police, because I want to make sure the kids know the laws. So to say to the kids, here's what you need to avoid to do, so I don't see you in the criminal court. I can see you on the street, or see you in college, see you in a vocational school somewhere else. So thank you.
Under new business, we have the request to increase golf rates at Green Oaks Golf Course for the 2023 golf season. And we didn't get to discuss it. I'm sorry, we didn't get to discuss it in the work session, Kirk, so we can just.
Kirk Sherwood, PGA Director of Golf, Green Oaks. For 2023, there was actually only the two items, an increase of $1 on 9 holes based on the data that I've kind of looked over, and an increase of $2 on 18 holes, and then the possible introduction of a 5-day non-resident senior rate of $680. Introducing the 5-day non-resident senior rate of $680 because back in 2017, we did a 5-day resident rate that was for a senior but not for a non-senior. So when you look at the application, I've had a number of people inquire as to how much we could do as far as a non-resident senior rate.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Oh, time for question. Sir, so what is, I understand $1 and $1, I think you said $2 for 18 holes. What is that total for a round of golf?
We currently, right now, our highest rate on the weekend's 37. That would put us at 39, including cart.
39 cart.
So the rates I provided on the spreadsheet were all in-season rates for 2022, with courses that I felt were either comparable or were municipal, county, or government related. And then there were a couple there that I put in there just to try to show some comparison. But even with the $2 increase, given inflationary costs, cost of goods, everything going up, it's still going to put us as the most affordable golf course anywhere in this area at $39.
And that's with a cart.
Correct, with a cart.
Yeah.
And we also I chose to add it to the green fee so that it was absorbed by everybody, not just people riding in carts. Otherwise, I would have added it to the cart fee. So just if there was any questions there, that's why it was added to the green fee section opposed to the cart fee. There will be a point in time, though, when we will have to take a look at the cart fees, because it's going to have to be adjusted after you get past a certain point. When you look at green fee versus cart fee and the percentages for green fee revenue versus cart fee.
I understand the $1 and the $2, but this other new non-resident senior rate, we didn't have the opportunity to discuss it internally either. There's been some emails going back and forth, but I'm comfortable with the adjustments that you spoke about in your budget process, the $2 and the $1. And I would like to learn more about that and how that works. I know there's a limitation. Well, I'm assuming, I shouldn't say that. When you have a membership, is it during a certain time of the day, or is it, I don't know how that works. So.
Sure, no, I completely understand that. So the 5-day pass is good Monday through Friday only. It is any time of the day. And then the 7-day pass would include Saturday and Sunday. So that's why you have a little bit of a higher rate for the 7-day opposed to the 5, but it's more of a prime time on the weekends. So the senior rate would only be a Monday through Friday because we offer senior rates Monday through Friday only.
So does that interfere with the leagues or tournaments? That's another question that
No, it wouldn't interfere with those because the patrons book tee times based on availability. So when the leagues play, those tee times are blocked for league play.
So it is based on availability.
Yes, any of the season passes are based on the availability of tee times. Or I have certain groups that have set tee times during the week because they all play in the same exact time.
Madam Chair? For the rest of the board, since I'm the golfer up here, I think Jimmy golfs a little.
So did Gloria.
Gloria golfs a little? Not anymore, okay. I've gone back the last couple of days with Kurt on a couple of items, and he's answered them to my satisfaction. I'm surprised it was only $1 and $2, because still, even with the 1 and 2, we are substantially lower to play a round of golf at Green Oaks than you are anywhere else in the Washtenaw County, Western Wayne, Southern Oakland counties. So I'm okay with that. My biggest question to Kurt, as the supervisor alluded to, was the non-resident senior rate, or in all honesty, any membership rate, because I grew up in a system where they always preached to us that memberships weren't the most beneficial to the course because of the number of rounds you can play. And those golfers may eat up the open times at a lesser rate that you could get another golfer at the proper rate. So, but again, I'm still comfortable with his recommendation.
And I do agree with that statement, Stan, but I think, though, we have to take into account all of the people that have supported the golf course, and to remove season passes and to go and do something like that with the people that have supported the golf course over all this time, I don't think that was something that we would do.
No, I didn't suggest removing them. No,
But I
just
agree
adding
with you.
another one was my concern.
But I do agree with your statement that, yes, you could use the tee times for what the price is and be able to recover it quite quicker, just like you were speaking of. But I also think that you have a loyal following.
Yeah, we have current members that are great. For the record, you never intended on trying to rescind membership fees, but expanding them to non-residents, I, right now, am not comfortable with that. You never talked about it in the budget, and I'm very comfortable with the recommendation for the $1 and $2. But the non-resident, I would need to learn more about that and how it affects. So a motion would be in order.
Sir, Madam Chair?
Yes.
The golf course over there on Clark, do you operate that one too, or is it just the one over here in Textile?
This is the golf course on Clark, ma'am.
Oh, you're talking about the one on Clark. Okay, who does the one on Textile?
That is Pine View and is ran by a different entity.
Okay, that's what I want to know. So what is the rates for Pine View? Did you bring those estimates?
I did, actually. This year, during the week, 18 with a cart was 38, compared to us at 32 in season, which we didn't hold an in-season rate because of some issues this year. And on the weekends, they were at 42 compared to us at 37.
Okay. Still good rates. And I apologize, I didn't see this because I can't get my computer to work all the time. So they did pass me the numbers, and I thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would make a motion that we accept the recommendation of our director of golf for item number 1 and place item number 2 on hold until we have a chance to discuss it in meetings and then bring it back at the next board meeting in November.
Support.
We have a motion and support to approve the 9-hole and 18-hole golf rates. Discussion?
And that's not with the seniors, is that correct? Not at this time?
Correct.
No discussion?
And it keeps the memberships and does all of that. The only thing that's increasing is the 9 and 18-hole. So we have a motion and support. Are there questions?
No, my question is about the non-resident senior.
We're not going to vote on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the motion was just for the 9-hole and the 18-hole rounds.
Just to allow us to discuss it, John, more in depth, then bring it back for discussions after we hear a little bit more about it, because, yeah.
We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Kurt. The next item is a request to approve the proposal from Cascade Engineering for waste management rental container removal in an amount not to exceed $50,000.
So moved.
Support.
Motion Rose, support Peterson. Michael?
Good evening. Mike Hoffmeister, Residential Services Director. As you know, and as you guys have approved, we are currently in the midst of a recycle cart rollout for all of our township residents, which will deliver a 96-gallon recycle cart to all of our residents to increase recycling and to allow our residents that currently rent recycle carts from Waste Management to stop their rental. What this particular agenda item is a proposal and agreement from Cascade Engineering, who is doing our cart rollout and manufacturing of our new recycle carts. Because they will be in town delivering our new recycle carts, we're recommending that we use Cascade to help us collect the currently rented recycle carts that our residents contract directly with Waste Management for. And so what this will do is currently slated for delivery, our new carts will be delivered October 31st through November 11th. Then Cascade will go through our community again and collect the rented carts on November 14th through 19th. So what this is it's a proposal and an agreement that will allow Cascade to collect those rented carts. Once those carts are collected from the renters, that will initiate the cancellation of the agreement from that resident to Waste Management and start the prorated refund process back to the resident for that unused remainder of their agreement through the rental. I hope that makes sense.
Other questions?
So, after Cascade collects all of the residential carts, how will Waste Management get in touch with the residents to refund that money?
So Cascade will go and collect all the rented carts. We will receive a report from Cascade saying that they received carts from these addresses.
Okay.
We will then turn that report into Waste Management, and that will initiate the refund process for those rental agreements from those addresses. So our residents don't have to call, and they also don't have to pay the $25 swap fee that Waste Management would charge.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
So my question is about, once they have the new, larger recycle bins or carts, we have a lot of residents who are, like at neighborhood watch meetings, saying that they don't feel comfortable with the bigger one. And so we need to be thinking about how we can help make that process easier. So if they don't want the big one, it sounds like it's got to come. And then they have to, there's going to be some kind of swap. So if there's a way for that to be easier, it looks like we're streamlining here. I don't know what that would look like, but I know that we are going to have people who don't want the larger cart.
That's correct. So postcards for residents that have probably already seen the postcards, the first mailer has hit homes. There's going to be an FAQ and a letter that comes with a lot of frequently asked questions. We're already taking calls for people that are going to want to swap to a smaller one. And so we do allow that with our trash contract. So a couple years ago, we provided the larger 96-gallon trash carts. They can currently call Waste Management and swap to a smaller one. That will also be the case for these. Because this is grant funded, the 96-gallon cart has to be delivered to the home, and we have to get reimbursed for that delivery. Then the resident can call Waste Management and swap from the larger cart to a smaller cart.
Will there be a fee for them to swap? And is our grant going to help with the residential fee for swapping to the smaller cart?
So there is a fee similar to what our trash contract is. There's a $25 swap fee. So there is a fee associated with the swap for that, and the reimbursement would not go towards that.
Other questions?
I think we got to make sure that that's communicated, because in meetings where I've been, we've told people they could do it, but I don't think we told them it was going to cost them money to swap to
Sure.
smaller.
It is illustrated in the FAQ document that they're all going to get mailed. It's in there. The process for how to swap and that there is a fee associated.
Yeah, I just meant like in the meetings that I've been in with neighborhoods, we've told them they could swap, but we didn't tell them it was going to cost $25 for that to happen.
And this $50,000 expenditure is because we're picking up the recycle cart. If a resident was to cancel it, they would get charged $25 to do it. So that's one reason why we're doing this. And I know you run a list of the 64 cart requests, don't you? Because there's currently residents that have them.
That's correct. That's
And,
correct.
So we have we kind of know how much, how
We can
many.
anticipate how many we think we're going to have.
We can look at that and see how
Yep.
many there's going to be.
Yep.
And, because we're going to have to go to Cascade, not to Waste Management, to get the smaller one.
For the swap, the resident will actually call Waste Management directly for that swap.
For the one for Cascade, the new one?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's correct. Yep.
So, I'm sorry? Well, see, when we were distributing, first we did a pilot in West Willow for the large trash cans that have the lid on it, and it worked out beautiful. And then we were able to get it throughout the entire township to do that. And if someone who was delivered a garbage can that was 96 gallon and they wanted a 64 gallon one, they had to pay the $25 difference to do that with Waste Management. Cascade is our supplier for the recycle bins. And to have, so they don't have to call Waste Management, it would be call Cascade or call the township to coordinate it? Is that how?
For a 96 to a 64 swap?
Yeah.
No, they would still call Waste Management.
Waste Management will have our trash can.
The recycled,
recycled bin.
correct.
They will have the new ones?
Well, so the new ones are coming in 96s. They'll have to call Waste Management to swap to a 64. So the grant dollars are going towards the purchase of the 96s. And if a resident wants to swap, they'll have to swap by calling Waste Management. The 64s would be Waste Management supplied.
Oh, they are going to be.
That's correct. We're not purchasing any 64 again. So that leads to the question, why didn't we get the information ahead of time? There were a lot of options that came through to us. We could have asked to collect data ahead of time for those that might want a 64 ahead of schedule rather than after, but that led to more layers of grant reimbursement discussions and adding stickers to carts and all the things. So that led to the collecting the 60, asking residents to swap after the fact, but that will have to be done directly through Waste Management.
And the grant calls for 96 gallon to be delivered.
Concerned because a resident who's likely to ask for the smaller cart, from what I've seen, is tend to be elderly or someone who has, like, maybe it's hard because of their ability to get that larger one out there. Are people allowed to not swap? Because what I heard last time is they're not going to come pick up just the regular ones that people put out to the curb. They have to have one of these bins now, right?
That's
correct. So
correct.
it just feels like we're penalizing, I don't want to say we're penalizing. It seems like the intent of this was to help unify recycling across the township. And we made a grand effort to make sure the cost of that would be not put on the residents, but we're going to be pushing a cost on residents that I'm not thinking we wanted to push a cost on. So the people who are most likely to be impacted by cost are going to be someone who wanted a smaller cart. And most of the time when people have said that, it's like an elderly person or somebody who's lived by themselves or somebody who has some mobility issues where that big cart is just not feasible. And I guess I feel uncomfortable with that.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mike, is there a possibility, like if you already have that running list of the 64 gallons of who switched their trash cart out to the smaller one, that we could look at that and possibly see if we're expecting later that they're going to want that, like just have them contact us first and then we could help coordinate that. I don't know if that would be an option to do it with Cascade. And then I don't know what that number looks like. Do you have a ballpark of how many people use the smaller?
I think we received a list from Waste Management that includes the folks that currently rent recycle, that currently rent additional trash, and people that did swap to the 64s. And then our staff are also taking phone calls from people that have called in, and we've started a list of people that are telling us that they're going to want to swap to the 64s. So we can try and find a way to expedite or streamline some of this to help those residents out. And that's the purpose for this agreement that's in front of you today, because we didn't want to ding the people that were already renting also, because they would also have to pay a $25 swap. With this particular thing, it breaks down to about $11 a cart that we would pay rather than the resident paying $25 a cart. So, this is just one side. The other side is that 96 to a 64 swap. But to answer your question, Clerk Gerald, yes, we can start doing some research on that. And we can even approach Waste Management to see if they have any ideas or recommendations on how we can alleviate our residents from paying that $25 fee.
And just the last thing I wanted to add is, we've already started getting calls on the first floor about this, and I think 2 residents today came in and were able to utilize the backdoor waste management program that allows the folks who are differently able to help get their bins out to the curbside. So there is also an avenue to help with that.
I have a question. Are the Cascade containers rented, or these are?
Purchase.
These are being purchased through the grant.
So, but the waste management ones that the people will have will continue to be rentals?
So a resident that rents a rental cart is Waste Management's property, and they can continue to rent a rental cart if they want to if they want to recycle with 2 carts. Otherwise, they're going to turn that rental cart back in on that November 14th through 19th window.
So I guess I was getting at the people that want the smaller carts will have to continually rent those.
So that would just be a swap.
Oh, and just pay $25.
That's correct.
Okay.
There's no additional rental fees included with a 96 to a 64 swap. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And the 96s, there will be no charge, no more rental fees.
Unless someone chooses to rent and use 2 recycle carts.
Okay.
Just really like to see us work with Waste Management, because if we move to carts, it's going to increase their efficiency. So they're not going to have to walk up. They're not going to have to grab those smaller ones. And I think in this kind of a large-scale initiative, which will reduce their time and their cost, it doesn't seem unreasonable for us to, at least the first time around, really press for the idea that let's get the swap out. And then after that, it seems like a different thing. But what they're going to gain financially from us doing this is significant. I mean, our residents are going to get a recycle bin that's, bigger, they can roll it out, but they're going to gain also in their cutting of costs. That's every single time, every single week, every single house. They don't have to have somebody go lift it up and put it in a truck. They just get to use the kind. So I think in fairness, just to get started, I think that's a fair thing. And I don't know how maybe negotiations is impossible, but they're going to save way more money than $25 a person who wants to swap out.
They might disagree, because right now, every house, every unit, we have to pay for recycle pickup, and 50% of our community. So we hope to increase that 50% more, which is actually going to increase, which is what we want to increase recycling. And they've gotten off pretty good with being paid a per unit cost for all garbage and all recycling, and they haven't really been utilized for it. So it's going to increase. That's what they told us too, is that it's really going to increase the amount of
participation
pickups and deliveries. So.
But our contract was for any household that wanted it, right? So
No, our contract was for every unit.
But when we contracted with them for pickup, we have to plan for that every house might opt into it. right?
We have to pay for every house that opts into it, yeah.
I'm wondering why they're thinking this is going to be more expensive for them. More people will be opting into something we already said we're putting, like, it's going to happen. I mean, somebody needs to have somebody's going to have that debate with them, because getting out of a truck and picking up carts
Right.
is
No,
costly
and
from
that
a
is, you're
labor
right.
standpoint.
You're absolutely right about that, and it's going to increase the amount of pickups, we hope, from the current 50% participation that we have to a higher amount. Right. It's a much easier, efficient, you're right about that. And it takes less people, remember, yeah. We have to work on it. Is there a contract involved with this?
So I did receive a second proposal. The proposal in here, as recommended by Attorney Winters, needed to be refined a little bit more. Just for clarification, Cascade will be taking the rental carts that they pick up directly to the Whitmore Lake Waste Management Facility. And so we received an additional proposal, and Attorney Winters did catch me outside and perhaps said that this would be good enough to proceed. I don't know if he wants to mention anything now, but we have a new one on the table to Supervisor Stumbo and to Attorney Winters.
Yeah, in regards to the second proposal, it did set forth the price, it set forth the dates at which they're going to be out there doing this swap and pickup and transportation to Whitmore Lake or somewhere, I think it was. And the one thing that was needed still was a certificate of liability
Right,
insurance.
they didn't have
With
it.
the township being named as an additional insurer, because they're going to be doing this in these giant trucks, what do you call those? And otherwise, that proposal they submitted would be in proper form for us to accept contingent upon receiving the insurance information.
So we'll fine tune it and find out about the swap out and how, because I agree with Trustee Swanson. I've heard that they will get swapped out at no cost. So we have a motion and support to approve the proposal with Cascade Engineering in the amount of not to exceed 50,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is request authorization to approve an agreement with Verizon Connect NFW for vehicle tracking services on 43 township vehicles in the amount of $9,004.20, which is budgeted and currently in place.
So move.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Is there questions or comments on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 4 is a request to confirm circuit court litigation to abate a public nuisance located at 862 E-Course, budgeted in line item 101-729-801-023.
So move.
Support.
Lisa, could you show the pictures? Not that. So we kind of think it might be a hoarding situation, and it's been to court several times. We get it resolved, and then it starts back up again. It's in district court, and that takes a long time to get anything, if any action, to occur. So because it's back at it, the neighbors have requested, and obvious that we need to do something about this house. So Lori, who is our new community resource person, is also reaching out and trying to engage the resident. But in the meantime, we still need to authorize circuit court action in order to make sure this doesn't continue to happen every time. Questions or comments?
Nope.
We have a motion, support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is Budget Amendment 13.
I have a motion to amend the 2022 budget amendment number 13. I would move to increase the Environmental Service Fund by $26,000 to $4,450,882 and approve the line item changes as outlined. I'd move to increase the Recreation Fund budget by $1,000 to $753,141 and approve the line item changes as outlined. I'd move to increase the Hydro Station Fund budget by $3,437 to $825,672 and approve the line item changes as outlined, and move to increase the golf course fund budget by $20,071 to $897,129 and approve the line item changes as outlined. These budget amendments, the golf course one is for increase the budget for money received for the damages to the golf course. The Hydro Fund Station is for a PTO payout. Recreation Fund is for funds that were donated by DTE for our senior dinner event. And the Environmental Services Fund was the Cascade Solutions that we just approved. I would so move the budget amendment.
Support.
We have a motion by Rose, supported by Peterson. Questions or comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under authorization and bids, we have the request to seek proposals for updating the Parks and Recreation 5-year plan.
Move to approve.
Support.
We have a motion and support to approve the Recreation 5-year plan update and to seek proposals. Comment?
I just had one question. As I'm reading this, Mike, is November 17th long enough to get enough potential bidders in it? So by the time it gets posted in the papers, it's going to be a week, Lisa? So you're only looking at 2.5 to 3 weeks maybe for people to get bids in.
That's fair. We can certainly extend it longer. Usually for consulting services, they can put those together pretty quickly. It's not like a construction bid where they're putting bonds together and stuff like that. So we can extend that if it's the recommendation of the board to push everything back a little bit.
That was all I was thinking, that we could bring it back at the first December meeting, but I'll leave it to you guys. It was a question that came up. It seemed like a very small time frame.
I do know, and I shared with Mike and John Hines, the Parks and Recreation Director, that West Willow has done a lot of groundwork and surveys and community engagement for the West Willow Park, and I emailed them back and let them know that it's perfect timing. Mm-hmm. And I know once we go out for proposals, then the Park Commission with you and John Hines will lead it and get the input for the neighborhood parks as well as the larger community parks as well. So he has a lot of information, and hopefully we can get it sent to you, Mike, or to John Hines. And we attended, Gloria and Debbie and I attended a intergenerational, wonderful communication group last Friday, and the young folks that were there really had some great ideas about the park use. And in our group, they actually asked for more cameras and more street lights and more park lights in order to make sure that, you know, people can be seen what they're doing and they're not in the park when they're not supposed to be in the park, and we need to take care of it. And they had some suggestions for like cheer and talent space, you know, and I don't know what that exactly means, like a little pavilion where people can actually do different performances or something was suggested as well. But Josh McAllister and Joanne and Janice and Linda Milling, they have a lot of information that's going to be very helpful for the improvements to the park in West Willow. So I just wanted to update you on that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Also, Mike, so when you get these proposals, like Brenda's saying, West Willow has an issue as far as possibly doing some updates there, and there's probably other little parks Then there's community parks too. How will you make a judgment call where to do those adjustments?
I mean, as far
And
as.
this is a 5-year plan.
Yep.
So we're hoping Westville will get a part of it. Other little parks that might need some addition, and even the bigger parks. So we're hoping that, you'll come back with a list, probably that you can tell us about some possibly adjustments on the parks. Could that happen?
Absolutely. So there will be an extensive, this is going to take about a year to do, because they're going to get public input, they're going to get
Right.
staff input, they're going to get park commission input, they're going to get board of trustees input, they're going to get neighborhood watch input. And so there will be at some point a presentation to the board of trustees and the park commission with a drafted master plan with priorities of projects, similar to what they've done in previous years. And so that will guide us for the framework of going forward. So we'll take all of those pieces of feedback to build the master plan, and then we'll present it to the park commission and to the board of trustees and then all the groups.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Eldridge that the time frame, we're going to want to be able to make sure that we get many bids, even if they're, they can do a quick turnaround. It is a long-term process that then the plan sits in with the full master plan, or that has in the past, or are we not up for that too? Yes, it's a piece of it that sits in with it. And I know that we've done in-house before, we've done out-of-house, and, both work, but the out-of-house was a fuller process, I think, in getting input from everybody. So I would also agree that giving a little more time for getting things in would be really helpful.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and support with understanding we're going to extend the,
Bidding window.
for the proposals. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2 is a request to seek bids for vacant township property mowing and roadside trash collection.
Support.
We have a motion by Eldridge, support by Wilson, and this will come back to the board, of course. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a request to approve the proposal from Communications Square for the design, licensing, support, and migration services for Office 365.
Move to approve.
Support.
What's the amount? And the amount, should we, Travis, I know it's not free, right?
It's definitely not free. So the project is pretty massive. The most noticeable changes for township staff is going to be a change in our email system. They're going to go from the interface Zimbra, which is what we currently use, to Microsoft Outlook. Now, the project itself, like the elevator pitch of the project, is really to embrace many of the Microsoft applications within its ecosystem to better prepare the township for the future demands. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of features that vendors come and go, we got this feature, I'm like, well, we don't have Outlook, that doesn't work for us. Or, hey, we want to do this, we want to share these documents with these vendors, oh, we can't do that. Our system doesn't really support that. So it's making some of those necessary changes. A lot of it is on the back end change. There is an additional cost to licensing. The project itself, the Communication Square component of it, the first cost is about $51,200, and that's for the migration of the email. That's taking our current data store and moving it into the Microsoft Office 365 cloud system. Then there is an allowance for some changes. Like we went through their proposal. There's things that, well, we don't really need, and there's things that we'd like to add, so it's making the changes to the original proposal that we submitted. Then there's the $24,000 for the managed services. Now, what that includes is it is a recommended from IT and the committee who reviewed it that we move forward with their managed services. That provides a help desk for both IT staff and our employees to be able to call with the how do I questions. How do I do this in the new system? How do I create an appointment? How do I create a task? How do I do this? How do I do that? It's to offset some of those needs. There's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be a learning curve on both the IT staff side and for our employee staff side. So to help offset some of those, that's why we're recommending that, so we have that additional resource to go with someone who actually knows the platform very well. Then there is the licensing cost. Microsoft 365 is roughly $240 a year annually per user. That includes like an account for somebody who doesn't use all the features. So it is a pretty expensive annual cost that will start to incur. To offset some of those expenses, there are some services that we're no longer going to need that we're going to migrate into this. But that's not going to cover the entire cost.
Travis, I'm wondering why you didn't include the price in for the line item. And is it 2023? You want to do it now? And I know we have some dollars budgeted, but it's just not clear on how much the total, I think it is, but you have to add up a bunch of numbers and.
Yeah, it would have made sense for me to put a grand total.
Account number and amount too.
The account numbers are going to come from different accounts. There's the public services account, there's the cloud licensing account, and then there was
software person.
I think it's software itself.
Yeah.
So those three different accounts in that particular
So is it
one.
currently budgeted in 2022, sir?
They are currently budgeted in 2022. We have requested some of those costs to also be into 2023's budget as well. Because we figured it's, October? We're really not going to see a migration until probably February, just to get everything in line. Because we do have a plan for extensive training, extensive preparing our employees for the transition. Education's going to be a big one on this one, because we don't want to just flip the switch and go, hey, welcome. That won't go over very well for anyone.
Madam Chair. So Travis, thank you. Just so I am understanding, like when I read your memo, I understand that all of the project costs that are outlined in that little Excel graph, all of those added together is the amount not to exceed. Like what is our amount not to exceed for this whole project?
All right, so the amounts are going to be, there is a fixed not to exceed amount of $56,400. So that's going to be the migration cost and the change cost itself, if there's any changes in there. Annually, there's going to be the $24,000 for the managed services. That's the help desk. My recommendation is to commit to that for a minimum of 2 years and then evaluate after the 2 years. The $65,000 is probably going to be ongoing annually for as long as we want to use email.
And we didn't get to this during the work session, but is there a contract involved with this as well?
So I asked Communication Square, I'm like, please provide me everything that needs to be signed so we can send that over to legal for review first. And their response was, well, we just need a PO and the proposal signed.
Okay. Questions? Questions?
They don't want them to look at the legal side.
Travis, rather than vote no, which is what I would do if we take a vote right now, because it's just not, I mean, you just mentioned there's a contract, but the legal staff hasn't seen it. I don't know what line items, what anything's coming from. I would make a motion to table until the next board meeting so we have better information.
How the company gonna say we don't need no legal?
I'm sorry. We have a motion to table?
Support.
Support to table for 2 weeks till the next board meeting. No discussion on that? Swanson? Yes. Newman? Yes. Peterson?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Stumble votes yes. Eldridge?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
This is tabled until the next meeting. The next item was motion by Eldridge, support by Wilson. Yeah. The next item is a request to rescind the approval, of the Comcast proposal for the SIP trunk project and to accept the proposal from Clear Rate Communications for SIP trunk service.
So moved, Peterson.
Support.
We have a motion and support.
In simple, it's phone services, the incoming and outgoing phone lines for the entire township. Originally, it was set to go to Comcast. We've had challenges getting that project moving, so we really kind of need to get something to help lower our current costs and to ensure the reliability of our phone calls.
So this is currently budgeted?
Yes, it is spread out among 5 different accounts among different departments. Each department is charged based on the number of handsets they have within their department.
Is there a contract with this, sir?
There is a contract. I reached out. Our sales rep was out on vacation last week, so I haven't got it yet. As soon as I get it, it's going to go straight to legal because I requested the annual renewal changes that are generally requested and the other items that I'm familiar with.
Questions or comment? Mr. Winters?
Here's a question, because Travis, I'm a little bit confused. Comcast, did we sign a contract with them back when you recommended Comcast?
We did sign a contract with them. I did speak with them. There is no financial burden to the township for canceling the project at this point.
So I'm going from my Dropbox here, memory, I thought I approved the contract after figuring out what it was. And, but if they're saying they have no objections to the contract being canceled and they will do so without a financial penalty, I'd like to have that.
Oh, absolutely.
In hand before we sign another contract that we haven't seen yet.
I will ensure that you get a copy of those emails and that communications from Comcast when the agreement is sent over.
I'm just round tabling, should we cancel until we get that, though? I mean, that should be part of the motion, that we not cancel Comcast till we're assured that there's no legal financial penalty?
I would probably agree. Perhaps the item could be approved pending legal. I don't remember how it was worded last time.
And I do know there's been problems with the Comcast phone.
Well, we never got up and running on the Comcast phones. We just couldn't get to that far. But the current system that we have is on some old legacy copper lines, and we've had nothing but challenges and problems with that. It took down the Civic Center. We had for probably about a week with nothing but problems.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad for everyone.
Mr. Winters, are you comfortable with that?
Hey, I'm not really sure, Travis, because on one hand, you don't want to cancel a service that we have until we have a new provider in place, but I don't know how this transition, how it works, so help me out here, because it's kind of confusing, because I know that we approved the contract, and the current provider is the Comcast?
The current provider that is currently providing our phone systems, if you call the township today, is going through Clear Rate T1 service. We approved the contract to switch that from them to Comcast SIP service. We're looking to keep the T1 service until we can get the SIP service for Clear Rate up and running. So that... The phones won't go out. The phones will keep working. Much as, some of us.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to table until we have the paperwork and reviewed by legal staff before we make any decision.
Support.
There's a motion to table and support. There's no discussion on that. I should do roll call, I'm sorry. Swanson. Yes. Newman.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Rowe. Yes. Stumbo votes yes.
Yes.
Eldridge and Wilson.
Yes.
Sorry. Under other business, we have one item that was added to the agenda. It is to approve the commercial underground secondary services in Ypsilanti Township this is for the wired-in US 12 historic sign that has not been lit up yet. It's $980, and this authorizes us to sign the agreement.
I would so move to approve the item added under other business that Supervisor Stumbo eloquently described.
We have a motion and support. Questions or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Board meeting updates, are there updates, or would you like to? I don't have any. All in favor to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
Motion Wilson, support everybody, support Eldridge. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 8:58.